Today's deck profile is brought to you by sunglasses, because you're going to need it for this one. Hi, it's your local dragon lady here, and I'm about to do a legacy deck profile. Now when I say legacy, this is around the time of my retirement, about late 2003 or early 2004. Now while Dragons was my claim to fame and was my A deck, on occasion I would play Exodia. It was sort of a niche deck at the time, not many people played it, but if you had played your cards right, it was quite powerful. And this deck actually won me quite a few tournaments. Well, it was my B deck. It served me quite well. So as I mentioned before, I'm stressing to you, this is legacy. This deck profile is based on the limited list of 2003. And I say limited because remember there was no ban list at the time. So let's go ahead with the profile, and right off the bat you have the lovely Exodia, and these are the LOB versions. This is the very deck that I played at the time. So obviously LOB was all you can get during that era. So for the profile, you must have those guys. Now the strategy of this deck was focused on deck thinning and stall revival and getting your pieces back into your hand if you lost them. So for your monsters, the first you had was Sinister Serpent, and it was only allowed to have one Sinister Serpent. I know it's errata right now, but back then this was a staple for any Exodia deck. You had one Witch of the Black Forest and one Sangan. Of course, they were only limited to one at the time, and you had these because these were very powerful search cards. So obviously, if they're sent to the graveyard, well, you would search your deck to put an Exodia piece from your deck to your hand. 3 Nimble Mumangas, and this is part of the deck thinning. Basically what you would do with these guys is, if they would hit one, go to the graveyard, search your deck, put the next 2 in defense. So for deck thinning, defense, and for stall, because once one was killed, you would gain 1,000 life points, so that will keep the game going. 3 Bourbonic Vermin, and basically for the same reason why you had the Nimble Mumangas. Basically for deck thinning and defense. Unfortunately, there was no bonus for giving you life points, but that didn't matter as long as you deck thin and stall. Well, again, it gave you more time and easier access to your Exodia pieces. 1 Magician of Faith, because if you use any of your magic cards, well, flipping her up would get you a magic card from your graveyard to your hand. And of course, depending what one you take out, well, it can make the game go longer. 1 Mask of Darkness, same reason. If you use a trap that's good for defense, or to get Exodia pieces, well, you put him down and you get a trap back from your grave to your hand. Again, it was only limited to 1 at the time. Penguin Soldier. This was a huge deal when Penguin Soldier came out, because there are times that if your Exodia pieces are in the grave, if you are able to get one onto your field through Monster Reborn, Call the Haunted, or Premature Burial, or even Shallow Grave, if Penguin Soldier was flipped face down, you could flip it and allow you to take your own Exodia piece back from the field to your hand, because hey, it happens. There are ways to get your pieces, well, for your opponent to get your pieces to the graveyard. For Magic, we had Pot of Greed, which was limited to 1 at the time, and same thing for Graceful Charity. Obvious, it's draw power that allows you to get through your attack faster. You had 1 Monster Reborn because, and it still is limited to 1. The Shallow Grave was limited to 1 back then as well, and so was Premature Burial. And for your Reborn cards, they were pretty obvious. Get a useful card from your graveyard to your field, especially if it's an Exodia piece. You can use your Penguin Soldier to get them back from the field to your hand. 1 Book of Moon. The primary purpose of Book of Moon back then was to basically flip your Penguin Soldier back face down. Even if reborn your Penguin Soldier from your graveyard to your field, use Book of Moon, flip them face down. You could use, well, then you can just flip them back up on if your opponent were to attack it, or you can flip it on your next turn to return one of your your opponent's monsters back to their hand if you had to, or, and for the obvious reason, get any Exodia pieces that you have on your field back to your hand. 1 Dark Door for stall. You know, if your opponent has a field of monsters and they can only attack you with 1 of them, well, it just makes you make your game well, even longer. Go to distance. Mystical Space Typhoon, because sometimes your opponent can place down a pesky magic or trap card that can really mess up your plays. So this was a staple back then, and I believe it was still limited to 1 back then, because this was extremely powerful. So yeah, I had one of those. Sword of Revealing Light, basically just for defense, because again, with this Exodia deck, you're just stalling and you're just drawing and searching just to get those pieces as fast as you can. 1 Raigeki, staple, could only have 1, well you still only have 1 obviously, but hey, depending on what monsters your opponent has, just wipe their board and give them a bad day. Infinite cards, because you want to have as many cards in your hand as possible. Say if you got 3 or 4 Exodia pieces in your hand, you still need cards in your hand to work with, either it's by searching or drawing or defending yourself. At least infinite cards, what it would do is you can have as many as you want. You didn't have to limit yourself to 6 or 7 cards. 1 Necro Valley, the primary reason Necro Valley is useful in Exodia is basically to keep your opponent out of your graveyard and from banishing your cards. Having your Exodia pieces in the graveyard actually isn't that big a deal. It's very easy to recover them from the grave and to put on your field into your hand. However, if they were removed from play, as it was called back then, it was game. There was nothing you can do. So Necro Valley was extremely important to get out as soon as you could. Card of Safe Return. You're only allowed to have 1 back then, and this card was just ridiculous. Special summoning was getting more and more common in the game's format at that time. So of course, if you lay this card down, anytime they special summon a monster, you drew a card. So this just helped your draw power much more. Painful Choice. When Painful Choice came out, it was immediately limited to 1 because everyone knew what this card could do in Exodia deck. All you had to do was get the normal pieces and send them to the graveyard. And of course, I'm sure we are all aware of the combo you can do with this one with your traps. And speaking of traps, we have 1 Backup Soldier. This was a huge deal when it came out because everyone caught on to the idea of what you do with Painful Choice. Basically, the combo was, with Painful Choice, you take 5 cards from your deck, and the combo was at least 3 of those cards should be your 3 pieces of Exodia. And of course, then you activate Backup Soldier. If you have 5 or more monsters in your graveyard, well, flip this up and you can take 3 normal monsters and put them to your hand. So this move was abused, and eventually these cards became banned. But at the time, despite the knowledge of this combo though, they limited to just 1. But this wasn't just broken for Exodia. Of course, as the format changed and more cards came out, there was a lot more you can do with these. So eventually, yeah, it was no surprise it got banned in the end. You had 3 Jars of Greed, again, just for the draw power. 1 Call the Haunted for revival. Again, if you have any Exodia pieces in your grave or a useful monster you need to get out, Call the Haunted will get it out. And of course, if you have Penguin Soldier, you can flip over, take that piece from your field, bring it to your hand. 1 Mirror Force, you were only allowed to have 1, basically just for defense, and it was considered a staple that almost every deck had. Torrential Tribute, because if you got nothing to lose, if your opponent just special summons or normal summons a monster, just flip this up. It didn't really matter what you had on your field, especially if you had Sinister Serpent for defense. So this card didn't really destroy anything of value on your side of the field at all. 7 Tools of the Bandit, another staple back then. This was one of the very few cards that could negate the activation of a trap. So when this was released, everyone was after it. It was critical. So yes, so every deck had it. You really needed it. 1 Imperial Order, only allowed to have 1. You still are. But Imperial Order worked differently back then as it does now. As of now, when you activate it, you have to pay your 800 life points until you're not able to pay anymore. Not the case back then. During the early days format, if you activated it, on the next turn, if you chose not to pay your 800 life points, you can say, all right, I don't want to pay, and then you got rid of it. So very lenient, very broken back then. Still useful today, but I don't see it in play much anymore today, simply because of the change of rule that you have no choice but to pay that 800 life points until you're not able to anymore. But of course, you know, there are other cards out there you can use to destroy it on your side of the field, which is fine. But no, again, back in the days of yore, it was a staple. And last but not least, we have Dust Tornado. This is one that was quite important as well. Your opponent could play a magic or a trap card, a continuous magic or trap card that can really interfere with your plays, and this became another staple. Having a trap that allows you to destroy another trap or magic card was, well, this was the only one that existed as far as I can remember. So super, super important. And that, my friends, is my Legacy Exodia deck, circa 2003. So if you're a fellow Legacy duelist like me, I hope this has been a great trip down memory lane. If you're new to the game or have only been playing for the past, well, decade or so, this was how decks worked back then. You know, you had a few staples that everyone had. Even the rulings, even the erratas were different. So Exodia, again, was a niche deck. Not many people played it, but this deck was actually very, very effective at the time. In fact, my most epic duel occurred with this deck. Someone was actually able to get all of my Exodia pieces into the grave, but with this deck, the way it's built and designed, I was still able to get every single piece out of the grave, onto the field, into my hand, and I won. It took forever, but it was allowed because there were no timing rules, but it was amazing. I just wish I could find out who that duelist was, because I completely forget. And just to see if we can remember some of the moves that we did, but it was amazing. I still have a few more of my Legacy decks stashed away, so eventually I will be profiling those. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed a trip down memory lane. And this is the Dragon Lady saying, be a good sport, play the game, not the fame. Happy dueling! Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe and click on the little bell for notifications. You can also check me out on Facebook. Link is in the description below. Happy dueling!